Good evening. Welcome to the August 5th regular meeting of your Board of Commissioners. Tonight, we're going to be led in invocation by Pastor Andrew Brown of the Main Street United Methodist Church in Reidsville. I'll ask everyone, if you're able to, please stand and remain standing for the pledge. Please stand.
Let us pray. Eternal Creator and Most High God, in the name of Jesus and by the mystery of faith, we seek you at this hour. Father God, bless the leaders of our nation, that we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other nations of the earth. Spirit of God, attend those who hold office in Rockingham County. Inspire in them wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their office to promote the well-being of all people. Lord God, teach us as the people of this great county to rely on your strength and to accept our responsibilities to our fellow citizens, that we may elect trustworthy leaders and make wise decisions for our society, that we may serve you faithfully in our generation. All this we ask according to your will and for the benefit of your kingdom, not ours. Amen.
Please remain standing. Thank you, Reverend. Lance, would you introduce a person to give the pledge tonight?
We have Rachel Barnes here. She's our new lead fellows in our program this year. She'll serve with us for a year. She's from UNC Central. She's graduated. She's either going to the career to be an attorney or public administration. We'll try to steer her to public administration, but who knows which path she'll take. Anyway, Rachel.
Hello. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. We operate from an agenda. It's been published. There are a few amendments to that tonight, so I'll ask for amendments and for an approval. Do I have a motion, Commissioner Powell?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we remove item number 4 from this meeting tonight to be held at some time later in the future. And I would also like to add to this agenda a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11A3 to consult with the county attorney.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. Motion carries. With that, we'll move to the recognition, item number 5. And Lance, would you read that for us?
Absolutely. This resolution is commending first responders for their heroic actions on May 21st, 2024. Whereas on May 21st, 2024, a 911 call was placed concerning a water rescue for a 3-year-old, Jamarian Levi Blackwell, who accidentally fell into the river from the Leaksville boat landing steps while playing with his cousins. Due to heavy rains, the water level was approximately 3 feet higher than normal, making this an even riskier rescue. And whereas within minutes, Eden police officers Josh Roberts and Tim Knight responded to the call and arrived at the riverbank. Officer Roberts then spotted the child face down, drifting down the river without a life vest in the swift current. Both officers navigated the steep riverbank and entered the water in full police gear. And whereas despite fighting the current, Officer Roberts was able to grab the toddler by his shirt and lift his lifeless body out of the water but then found himself going under. Officer Roberts was able to turn around and pass the toddler to Officer Knight, who was also fighting to keep his own head above water. And whereas once the officers got the toddler to the riverbank, Eden Police Lieutenant Annie Johnson and Eden firefighter Mike Farmer initiated life-saving measures. Upon realizing the emergency medical services were unable to reach the location of the toddler, Officer Roberts grabbed the toddler and sprinted to the ambulance, which was parked about 150 yards away and up a steep grade. While running with the toddler in his arms, a completely exhausted Officer Roberts' legs collapsed and fell to the ground, and without hesitation, Officer Knight grabbed the toddler from Officer Roberts and continued running to the ambulance, delivering the child to medical personnel who immediately began CPR. And whereas 3-year-old Jamarian Levi Blackwell was rescued and transported to UNC Rockingham Hospital with 15 minutes and 12 seconds from the initial 911 call. He was later transported to the Brenner's Children's Hospital, where his mother, Michaela Williamson, reported that he was released Wednesday morning and was eating, talking, and excited to be home. And whereas Eden Police Officer Josh Roberts, Eden Police Officer Tim Knight, Eden Police Lieutenant Andy Johnson, Eden Firefighter Mike Farmer, EMS workers Randy Young, Brittany Russell, Jennifer Kelly, Alex Jeffries, and James Nance, 911 communicators, Stephanie Howerton, Layla Keenan, Pamela McVaughn, Tyler Roberts, and Michaela Mebane are all part of this heroic rescue. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rockingham County Board of Commissioners that all the first responders who worked effortlessly together to save the life of a 3-year-old from drowning on May 21st, 2024 in Eden, North Carolina, deserve to be commended for their heroic actions. This, the 5th day of August, 2024. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lance. Mr. Cates, would you make your way?
So to give you a little rundown on how this played out, we always talk about a team effort, and it takes a team effort to mitigate an emergency situation, and that's exactly what happened on this occasion, and that's why this was a successful rescue. I'm going to give you a timeline. As I'm giving you a timeline, I'm going to ask the people to come up that are responsible for this, and you'll see the whole group come together. At 12:42 and 18 seconds, Tyler Roberts. Tyler, and you can certainly bring your little ones as you would like. Tyler Roberts answered the 911 call that was reporting that the young man, that the child had fallen into the river. Immediately after that, as he took the call, telecommunicator and supervisor for the day, Stephanie Howerton, began to dispatch the fire department. Layla Kennan. Layla, if you'll come up. Layla dispatched the EMS unit. She dispatched Medic 2, Unit 4, and the supervisor, if you all would start up. Pam Devon, who is not here tonight, she dispatched the police department, and within just less than 3 minutes, the police department arrived on scene. Eden police members, if you all that are here would come on up. So if we're in this, look at this in a timeline, an average dispatch time nationwide is probably about 12 minutes. So we have the Eden Police Department on scene in just slightly under 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that happens because the dispatchers initially get that call out as quickly as they can. As the police department arrives, the fire department has already been dispatched, EMS has been dispatched, so Eden Fire arrives on scene. So Eden Fire, if you're, Mike, if you come on up. So all these people are on scene, and while all this is going on, the Eden police officers recognize that the child is in the water. They see him face down, floating in the river, lifeless. They don't take time to put on a life jacket. They don't take time to go back and say, I need to take off my duty belt. I need to take a vest off. They went into action. They dove in the water to go get the child. And all of this is happening again within just minutes of the initial 911 call coming in. The medic units began to arrive on scene. The officers, as Lance just reported, located the child, started to pull the child out of the water, passed him off, and got him back up the bank. And that's when Eden Fire began the CPR, initiation of CPR and resuscitation efforts. EMS couldn't get all the way down the hill because of all the response vehicles that were there, so they knew they had to run the child up the hill to get him to EMS. Adrenaline takes over. Fatigue takes over because you've already been in the water, uniforms are wet, duty gear is wet, it's very heavy. So that's why they start getting tired, and they pass them off so they get the child to the EMS unit. Once they get him to the EMS unit, luckily we had a lot of people there. We had 2 units on scene plus the supervisor. the 2 units, all the members, which is technically 4 people that make up those 2 units, they jump on one truck, one drives, 3 get in the back, and then Eden Police Department still gave them a police escort to the hospital. So from the time the 911 call is placed until the child arrives at the hospital, where the return of spontaneous circulation is 15 minutes and 12 seconds. That's teamwork at its best, and that's why that child is alive today. So we commend each of you. I have a certificate for each of your departments that we're going to give out, which is exactly what Lance just read. Stephanie, you were the supervisor that day, so that's for 911. Jimmy, you're the medical supervisor for the EMS. Ladies and gentlemen,
Guys, I'm going to ask that you step around, come in here, and we'll have a photo op. As many as we have, we might ought to stay up here, gentlemen. Just come on around here and line up in front of us, if you will. Lance, can I get you to step around and take some pictures for us?
Yes, sir. We're waiting for the PIO, I guess.
Yeah.
Gracious. This takes away any double chins. All right, smile. There we go. Thank you.
Folks, thank you for everything you do. Congratulations.
well done.
You all, thank you. I'll have to give that to,
There we go.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. We've already dealt with item 6, so item 7 is our consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are non-controversial items. However, if anyone has questions about these items, please contact Lance Metzler, our county manager. Do we have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item 7 is approved. Item 8 is public comment, and tonight we don't have anyone signed up to speak for public comment. So with that, we'll go to item 9, a presentation by Dr. Stover, Superintendent of Schools, as well as Ursel Young. Good evening, folks.
Good evening, Chairman Hall, Commissioners, County Manager Metzler. Tonight, we are here to ask for the approval to apply for the Public School Repair and Renovation Fund for Western Rock Middle School. And before we get started, we would like to thank the county commissioners for partnering with Rockingham County Schools. And just so the public knows, we have partnered together to approve a $47.7 million 5-year facilities plan, a capital plan for Rockingham County students. Why renovate Western Rock Middle School Building Number 4? Our prioritization plan focuses on student safety, roofs, HVAC, and so with Western Rock, the building is located, building number 4 is located directly behind the main building, so it creates a natural safety barrier. There were also prior HVAC, lighting, and water fountain upgrades and renovations that were done to the building. That totaled almost $300,000. And why Western Rock? The repair and renovation grant does take advantage of, it allows us to fund it. It allows us to fund for the design and the drawings by an architect, and then it would allow to fund the actual renovation. What you have before you is an actual layout of the campus at Western Rock Middle School. And if you look on the lower right-hand side, that is where the current 6th grade class is located. All of the 6th grade classrooms are located there. If you look on the left-hand side, the upper left-hand side, that is where the cafeteria is located. And coming back down below that, the gym is located there. That is a total of, from that building located by itself, it's a total of 769 feet. Or as we heard today, it was more than 100 yards away from where the EMS had to tote the toddler. So we're talking about 512 yards away in one trip. And if you have a lunchtime, or if you're going to breakfast, then you're traveling that 2 times. And then if you have your PE class as an elective, you have to travel again. They're traveling in front of the building. As you can see, there is no awning or anything there. It's in front of the building. So what we're proposing to use this money for is building number 4 is the building that's currently vacant. It is behind the main building. It creates a natural security barrier. And in the next picture, this is a picture of the building number 4 from behind the main entrance. And if you look, there's a smokestack there, and that is actually the gym. And then the cafeteria is right beside it, so within a few feet. And it is a sidewalk that's already there and an awning for the students. Now, some of the repairs that I mentioned that have already been completed in that building include HVAC, lighting, and there are many splits in the classrooms, as you can see here. There were also renovations to the water fountains, and so part of that money came from an energy performance contract that took care of the lighting and the water fountains, and then ESSER funding was used for the HVAC. So the way we found out about this actual building is we were there with an architect in reference to our capital fund, and we're looking at securing the building with the vestibule. And so then I was ready to walk up to the 6th grade building and look at that for security purposes. And the principal said, "Can we take a walk to building number 4? And to my surprise, this is one of the conditions of a current classroom there. And if you look at the bottom of that, it looks pretty rough. What happened, and one of the reasons that they used the ESSER funding prior to Dr. Stover and I being in our positions, was because there was a boiler underneath the building and it was leaking. And so it destroyed pretty much the inside of the building. We would also need multi-stalls, we call them gang bathrooms for females and males, in this building. There was only one bathroom in the building previously, so we would have to look at that. And you can also see where that steam that was located, the boiler downstairs before it, just the moisture in it has destroyed the building. So again, just the natural security of the building, the main building is in the front. There are 2 other buildings that are behind the main building that are utilized. One is a science building, and then they have another building that they actually have students in. And the reason we're asking for the repair and renovation grant is that these funds are only allowed or allowable to be used for existing buildings. We cannot build any new structures or buildings with these funds. And we would like to move those 6th grade students down behind the building where they would be more secure. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Commissioner Barrow, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mrs. Young, this is sort of drawn out, so bear with me here for a minute. You referenced earlier the $47 million plan, which Davenport helped with, commissioners helped with, you guys helped with. So my first question is, there's a prioritization list in here for the next
Yes.
5 years.
Yes.
And this project was not mentioned at all in the prioritization list. Can you explain for the public's benefit why it was not in this list?
Absolutely. And you do reference that plan, and it is a 5-year plan, and it did focus on HVAC, roofing, and safety. And knowing now that building had some repairs done to it, and that we would not have to do the HVAC, and it would move students closer and make them secure. What we intend on doing, and I was actually with an architect when we toured that building. So I was with an architect looking at the safety vestibule and what we would do. And it's just a natural fit. And I will say that the prioritization list and this actual capital expenditure, the prioritization list is kind of like we call it like it's a living document. So there may be other items if we, for instance, had a roof leak or something unexpected. Of course, with a roof, we would first look at our insurance, but then we would move to our prioritization list. We would move that on.
Can I add one more thing?
By all means.
So the plan that we have is really for our dedicated sales tax money that's dedicated to school funding. This project is from a separate pot of money that also requires commissioner approval. And after we got to really get under the hood and look at that money and understand the purpose of it, we thought that this project was tailor-made for that. It came from an idea, hey, I'd like to do this. And I said, that sounds like a great idea too, but we have to identify funding. And then we realized through the county staff, who've also been great partners with us, that there was this money available. Pat actually said, what are you going to do with this money? We said, aha, well, here's a great project. So we're talking about 2 separate pots of money, and the plan was to allow us that flexibility when we see opportunities to take advantage of it.
So I appreciate all those comments. It didn't quite get to the answer of my question, which was, if we knew of this project and its importance, why did it not make the list?
So I'll answer that.
Yep.
I did not, I will tell you personally, I did not know that the building was not being utilized. So when I walked the campus with the principal, she said, hey, can we look at this building?
So that was when we first became aware of the situation. Okay. I have a couple more if you bear with me for a minute. So the photo you showed that said current classroom.
Yes.
To be clear, there are no students in this building.
This building is not, it's uninhabitable as it stands for students. I will tell you that as far as an HVAC unit is concerned, there's no mold or anything growing, and that would be one of our concerns. The HVAC unit is brand new. The lighting, as you saw, was brand new, and so it would be us going in and renovating that, making it habitable, and making it a habitable place for
Yes,
our
ma'am.
students.
Okay. bear with me, still not there yet. So I guess I just have a more of a process question. How did this building that we were unaware of end up with a new HVAC, new lighting, new water fountains without us being aware of it?
So I will say that our predecessors probably foresaw, and I sit on the TRC committee, and we know that there is growth going on in the western corridor. And I would assume that they were getting ready for that growth spurt and planning to upgrade the building.
Okay. So let me just say, I completely support this, but I still just need a little more clarification. So when I was watching the school board meeting on the 8th, when this was initially brought up, the comment was made that this money would be, well, first of all, do we have any idea how much it's going to cost to fix this building?
Do not, and that's why we want to utilize these funds, because it will pay for an architect to go in and assess what we need and the cost.
So, okay, so just for clarification, we don't actually know if these funds will cover the cost of the architect and whatever renovations need to be done, because we don't know what it might cost.
No.
Okay.
And the main part, actually, we've talked to someone, we've walked someone through to look at, for instance, the cleaning up of the place, the painting, and there's carpet or VCT needs, and we've talked to someone about that, and they told us they could do that for much less than $100,000.
Great, okay, so that, I think that pretty much covers my questions. This is just one last thing, and I'm not trying to be a stickler here, but multiple times over the last 6 months about different things that have come before the school board, I've heard we didn't know. And that's a problem for us. It's a problem for the elected officials for the school board, because we rely on staff to give us proper information, and it's hard for us to make appropriate decisions for the citizenry if we're not given the information. So I understand that we're all new in roles, but at some point, we need to know.
Well, and we found out, so now we are really approaching you and hopefully trying to explain the rationale behind why we need it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Commissioner Powell?
Yes, ma'am. Could you tell me, is there a process that you use for identifying your most, prioritizing your needs?
Yes. So with our HVAC, for instance, we work with another contracted company, and they give us a listing of the ages of items. For instance, we're working on upgrading our HVAC, and we still have approximately, we have several boilers that are still out there. And so what we're looking at is upgrading those. And I'll give you just an example. There is a boiler that is operational at one of our high schools, and it started out, it was a coal boiler. It's been converted over to steam, then converted over to electric. And so what we do eventually, that boiler it will go down and it won't be able to be repaired. So what we are doing and looking at is taking it out of service eventually and then putting in HVAC. So we do look at what can be repaired, the age of it, and the prioritization list honestly gives us more flexibility, because we will have room in there to be on a repair plan or repair and replace, where we're not in a situation like this.
The number one factor, though, is student safety. If it's an immediate need and would compromise student safety, that moves to the top of the list immediately.
How does a leaking roof rank in our prioritization?
A leaking roof ranks high on the prioritization list, and then what we have to do, we have to go through a process. We have to hire architects to look at the roof. We have had several leaking roofs that have been approved. They're on the prioritization list. And with several of the roofs right now, we already have had those roofs bid out, and now we're in the pre-construction phase.
Now, does that process normally take 3 to 4 years?
No, it doesn't take 3 to 4 years.
Okay. So I was invited to attend a walk through the Stoneville Elementary School, and I was taken into the auditorium, and I was told by some of your predecessors that roof had been leaking for 3 years. So I'm just wondering how you get HVAC upgrades and lighting upgrades in a building that's not being used for anything over a roof that the kids are attending functions in, and it's, the walls, the plaster's coming off and the kids are getting wet. How does that work?
Well, I can tell you that we would prioritize the leaking roof that housed students in it.
And I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. My last comment would be this. I realize that there's an enormous responsibility when you've got as many campuses as you've got, and you're trying to look after these buildings, but I would certainly hope that we now have someone in your office that knows exactly what the school owns and how many buildings we own and which ones are being used. I think that would be helpful. And then another thing, quite frankly, and I told your predecessor this at Stoneville Elementary School, whether it's a new building or an old building, or what, there's no reason it can't be clean and it can't be painted. It doesn't take a whole lot of money to do those things. And when we see, when I walk through there knowing that they're pining for a new school there, and that roof's been leaking for 3 years, it causes some concern for me, because a new facility could have a leak too, and certainly we hope it wouldn't wait 3 years to be taken care of. My last question would be just twofold. One, is this building big enough to hold the sixth grade? Do we have enough room there to take care of the sixth grade needs?
We do have enough room to take care of the current sixth grade. However, some of the electives would not be able to be housed there, so we would still have to, have to use some other areas in order to house them.
And then my last question is, since we do not have a price on what the actual construction cost will be to renovate this building, what happens if it's not enough? What happens if the grant does not cover that? What are we going to do then?
If the grant does not cover it, and of course we're hoping that it will, but if the grant does not cover it, we do have several options. The students, Mrs. Ray, the current principal, she has looked at perhaps moving some of the specials classes that don't travel during the day. She's looked at perhaps moving them to the upper building and utilizing the actual main building for the sixth graders. Also, it depends on how close we come. I mean, it may be that we have to come back to the commissioners and see if we can use part of our capital fundings for that.
And if you're unable to do, let's just say the cost exceeds what the grant is, what happens to the grant then?
So if the costs were to exceed what we were able to do or are able to do, this grant, the funds that were set aside for each county, they are interest bearing, so it does earn interest. And then what we would do is actually move to another project, perhaps in our prioritization list that would fit the needs of the grant. We would not let the grant sit there. We do need to use those funds.
But the grant's not specific to the purpose you apply for, is that correct?
You do have some guidelines as to what you can use it for, and one of the things that we have looked at is that it's for existing classrooms and upgrading those.
But if you were to apply for the grant, and I'm assuming you have to give a synopsis of what you're going to use it for. So if it's for Western Middle School.
Yes.
And that cost overrun is too great to use the grant, then it would be possible for you to use the grant, say, at Rockingham High School. We're not bound by using it there, so we could move it. And I'm assuming you could actually move that money to another project, even if it was sufficient enough to cover the cost, if you changed your mind and decided you wanted to use that money on another project. Is that correct?
That is correct. We would just have to do another application.
And we would have to get your approval prior to any
Right.
submission of amended application.
And this is something that we have to do it in conjunction with you.
Couple of things. So the current sixth grade building, what will it be used for in the future? If we move the sixth graders to this building, what will that be used for?
The current sixth grade building, again, we cannot move all of the electives and enhancements that are situated there. We don't have room enough to move all of those off of that, out of that building. And currently, we do have computer labs that are up there and art.
Okay, well, I think before you had just indicated that there's not enough in that building, but did not indicate that those electives would stay in the current sixth grade building.
We
So
will
that's
still
what-
use the building.
Okay, but it would create some additional space in that building.
Yes.
Okay.
Future growth.
Okay, what improvements have already been made to the sixth grade building?
So over the course of time, there have been some upgrades there. Most recently, there was another situation with a leak, and a leaking boiler, and so our maintenance department has worked diligently with that. There was a leak that went all the way across the campus of the school, so they've worked on that. And that building, too, could probably use some classroom upgrades, but they have upgraded over the years, but it could probably stand some renovations as well.
I guess what I'm hearing is the kids would not have to walk the same distance for daily activities outside the classroom, but they would still have to walk that same distance for the specials that they have.
If they are assigned to those specials, for instance, if they have an art class, then they would.
And the safety issues we're trying to get away from would still exist for those specials.
But not at the same magnitude. And what we would try to do there as well is use that, instead of using the whole front of the building, what we would do is utilize one exit that's closer to that building.
And I'm a little unclear when what we've got is asking for approval, but we're not certain as to the cost. And I know Commissioner Powell had asked, what if it's not enough money? I believe that we get roughly $500,000 into that fund on an annual basis. Is that right?
Yes, and right now, because it is an interest-bearing account, as of today, and if you look even on the agenda, there was an amount, but as of today, I looked and it's $1,360,000.
At what point are we going to have an amount as to what this is going to cost?
One of the reasons, and we can go ahead and work with an architect, but an architect would be needed because we do have to have them do the design and the drawings.
Okay, so are you asking, and I'm not real sure, are we being asked to approve the full amount at this point, or what are we being asked for tonight?
What we are asking for, and we are perfectly fine with asking for design, for an architect fee, so they can go ahead and assess everything and give us a good idea as to what we will need.
Okay.
I think the big unknown cost for us, because we have gotten a rough estimate on painting and flooring, is the bathrooms. And we have to put a gang or a multi-stall bathroom in there for both female and males. And that's the cost, that's the unknown. That's why we really need the architect in there. And we could also look at some other options of maybe getting some bathrooms that are mobile bathrooms, basically trailers that are designed for bathrooms. We'd like to avoid that if we can. So that's why we really want planning costs to get a good estimate for those bathroom costs. We believe it would be coming close to the money we have in the fund right now, but until we get an architect in there to tell us, we can't say that with certainty.
All right. Good. Commissioner Richardson, and then I'll go back to you, Commissioner Powell.
That's Commissioner Barry.
I think my questions kind of follow on to things that you've heard before. Ursula, I'm glad we got a middle school principal here. You can appreciate some of this. And I might mention that I know Mrs. Ray. She's an excellent principal and does good. I don't know how good a contractor is. Do you guys have a process to provide principals with that sort of expertise, building expertise, maintenance expertise, as they assess the facilities on their grounds?
What they would do is, we do have our maintenance team that
Is that on a regular basis?
Our maintenance team is working with our staff on a regular basis. And so, again, they are also utilizing, for HVAC, they also use Johnson Controls. And there is someone who is on those campuses on a daily basis.
Daily basis.
Daily.
You know what happened in Alamance County when people weren't watching the pot?
I do know exactly what happened in Alamance County, and I am proud to say that anytime anyone has suspected that there was an M word, whether it be mildew or the other M word, we have been very proactive in testing, and we have come back with results that are favorable. And so I will say, again, that ESSER funding helped us get ahead of the curve as well.
And we also employ an energy specialist whose sole job is to look after those types of things, monitor the air quality in the buildings proactively, and ensure we don't have those situations.
I'm not trying to get down to the details. I just think that Principal Ray deserves some assistance with that. She wasn't exactly trained for that particular area, but she's a very clever lady. How many square feet are involved in the present sixth grade building versus building 4?
Pardon me?
What's the square footage of these two buildings, the sixth grade and this building 4?
Now, the sixth grade building is bigger, and it does have a basement that's bigger. It is, what we're looking at is mainly the fact that Principal Ray can get her sixth grade there without the electives. And this building that we're talking about does have a basement, but however, there is still an old boiler that's there. So they would not utilize the basement.
And we can get those exact numbers as a follow-up to you guys.
Well, I care only as you need to know this information, because alluding to Commissioner Berger's question, I'm interested in how much capacity you're adding to the Madison Middle School facility.
And that upper building, should the growth occur, and of course, we know those phases are happening, that upper building could be used for the growth as well.
Well, Ursula, you're the perfect person to answer this. How long does it take a middle school class to travel 762 feet?
I will tell you that I have watched that sixth grade go to lunch, and as you know, lunches are scheduled about 10 minutes apart, and it took them a good 15 to 17 minutes. I mean, they're just traveling and they're waiting for the teacher to come up with a key to let them in. So, I mean, you're talking about a good time span where a teacher is on one end coming out of the cafeteria and you've got a long line going up that hill, and it's a waste of time.
Well, I did not know that they were on 10-minute intervals, so thank you for that information, but I would think the time required to travel might be a piece of useful information for your purposes, not for
And
mine.
they are on a 10-minute, when you're talking about the classes, because the cafeteria needs time to replenish the line between the classes.
Yeah. If it takes them that long to go, if it takes them 15 minutes to go 762 feet, you need to upgrade your PE program for these youngsters.
Telling you, I've seen the teacher, and I've stood there and watched the teacher coming up behind, and then they're coming up and they're waiting, and the teacher is trying to, make sure that they're all together.
I know some drill sergeants you can hire on an interim basis to take care of that. Thank you for that information. I think all the questions I heard from the commissioner, I think are going to be useful as you go through this decision-making process. And I think some of my colleagues am concerned about, we really would like to know a figure that, I know you can't get it down to the end, but there are many contractors out there that can come up with figures that are very close on all of those things to give you a starting point, so that I'd like to have some comfort level that the amount of the grant that you're asking for is going to cover what you want it to cover, or I would think you need to know that. So pardon the third degree, but I think they're fairly practical questions you've heard.
Feedback is a gift.
We'll go to Commissioner Barrow next, and then Commissioner Powell.
Well, just one last point of clarification. So I think I understood this from one of the other commissioners' questions, but you can use these funds for the architect, and it will be covered regardless of whether or not they tell you the rest of the funds will cover the project. Is that correct?
Yes, we can use those for design, and,
Even if you don't move forward with the project, it'll still be covered by the grant.
right.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
At this,
Powell was going to go next. All right, go Berger.
at this point, we
deferred.
don't know how much the planning and design is going to cost.
What we look at when they will assess it, when we work with an architect, they give us a fee structure, and it is based upon the cost of the job, and it's a percentage.
But the planning and design fees that you're asking approval for is based on another number that we don't know. So how are we going to approve just the planning and design fees?
Mr. Chair, if I could interject, I think after reading through the request here, is all you guys are looking for is our approval to apply for this grant?
Yes.
Okay. I believe the money's dedicated to the county, is that not right? Okay. And then you'll come back to us with the numbers. Okay.
Mr. Powell.
That takes care of my question.
Chair, I move approval of this request.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very good. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, folks. Mr. Manager, is any new business tonight?
No, sir.
With that, we'll move to commissioner comments. Commissioner Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for everyone that came out tonight. It was truly an honor of mine that we were able to recognize all the first responders that helped save the little boy in Eden. I know that We've had trouble in the county with emergency services, keeping people staffed and that sort of thing. We've worked very hard over the last couple of years to remedy that, and I think that this is, the proof is in the pudding that, obviously we've made moves in the right direction, and thanks to Mr. Cates and all of the staff over there, we do have the people we need. We have good people to carry them. We have the ability to respond, even in a worst-case scenario such as this. So thank you again to all the Eden police officers and all the staff in Rockingham County. I would also just like to extend my condolences to the family of Mr. Homer Wright, who passed away since our last commissioners meeting. I did not know Mr. Wright personally, but if you live in this county, specifically if you live in the city of Eden, you've probably benefited from some of his philanthropic endeavors. He will be greatly missed, and just condolences to his friends and family. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrow. Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, I also would like to offer congratulations and thanks to the outstanding work done by county employees and municipal employees in this life-saving instance. We hired the right people, and I'm glad they were there in the right amount of time to make something good happen. I'd like to caution folks, it's still hot out there and potential floods coming to us Friday, Saturday. So let's be alert. If you can't see through it, don't drive through it, and use good caution out there. I'd like to make a plea, if I would. Last commissioner meeting, we honored a lady as Volunteer of the Month. We're still looking for Volunteers of the Month from Rockingham County. If you would pass those names along to our Commissioner Clerk, Susan Washburn, we would certainly like to consider the many, many folks out there doing outstanding works, volunteer throughout the county, to get them some recognition. And kind of on a personal note, but over in our health department, we have a fairly young lady named Kimberly McNeil, who handles training primarily. That's her main job, and she's been with the county for quite a while. And she does a great job in hiring great people as well. She's involved in a lot of those interviews, and she gets the right amount of training so people are prepared to do the job. So, Kimberly, thank you for all you do for the county. We look forward to having you around for quite a while, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Berger?
Yes, thank you, and thank the people who joined us tonight for being here. And certainly a special thank you to those that we were honored to have in our presence tonight that performed those heroic acts. And I know it's part of their job, but it was good to see them work together and the outcome that they were able to have that night. I also want to mention something about Homer Wright. Homer was one of our World War II veterans that we lost since our last meeting, serving in the Army and in Italy, and freeing Italy from as a result of World War II occupation. Homer, after graduating from the University of North Carolina, did make his way back to Eden and was instrumental in the consolidation of Leakesville, Spray, and Draper into what is now Eden. He was also a recipient of the Longleaf Pine, very active with the Salvation Army, lived a very productive and long life, passed away just short of his 100th birthday. So thoughts and prayers certainly to the family of Homer Wright. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Powell?
First of all, we'd like to thank Paula Rakestraw for being present tonight in our meeting, our only elected official that I saw tonight. I, too, would like to comment on our first responders and 911 telecommunicators. We have what I think is the best. We certainly have a state-of-the-art 911 center. If you've never had the opportunity to see it, trust me, it is something to behold. And I've heard people in the county say, well, when I call, they ask me 500 questions. Well, they do, but while they're asking you those questions, there's somebody behind them already dispatching your call. So that's how we get to 3-minute response times and 15 minutes to get someone to a hospital. And so we're certainly proud of them for their life-saving efforts. on this occasion, but this is an everyday thing for them. They try every day to resuscitate and preserve life in our county. We thank you for that. I too would like to pay my condolences to Mr. Wright's family. I've worked for the Wright Company several times, mainly for Keenan, his son, who preceded him in death. And they were a fine group of people, and we certainly enjoyed that relationship. And certainly prayers for his family in this difficult time. I would also like to announce that on September the 28th, we'll be doing our outdoor hunting and fishing day again. Looks like this is shaping up to be even bigger than it was last year. Generally, we start about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'll have fishing for the kids. They can fish, they can shoot archery. We had 22s there and BB guns. We'll have vendors there. We'll have food there. There will be things for the parents to do. And so it's looking like it's going to be a big day. So go ahead and mark your calendar for September the 28th. And this will be at the Reidsville Police Training Center on Rocky Ford Road. We'll get that address out to you. We appreciate the city of Reidsville for helping us, and our emergency personnel for helping us, and all those that attend to make this possible for our children in the county, to introduce them to something besides a telephone. And we thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Chairman. That does it.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Again, I'd like to echo the thoughts of everyone tonight. We certainly were tickled to be a part of this recognition. What a wonderful event to highlight these heroic acts and to see things when it actually works. So we're so thrilled to be a part of that. Additionally, I'd like to remind folks at our last couple of meetings I've brought up that we're doing a community health assessment, and we'd really appreciate it if you could go to our website, take a few minutes to complete this questionnaire. It's very important to the community. It helps 501c3s as well as the county government, and we'd appreciate you taking the time to provide your input on that. So with that, we will accept a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we now go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11, subparagraph A, subparagraph 3, in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the county attorney and the board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Very good. We will take a 5-minute recess, and I do not anticipate any business after this closed session. So thank you, folks.